Testing. Yeah. All right. So if you let's go into the prayer book and do some prayers. Is anybody excited about doing prayers? Probably not. But these are really important to set our intention for the practice. So here's what we're going to do in the gold book on page 34. We're going to go right through the first 2 pages. And we're going to do it in English. Okay. So how many people are new? I think I see some new faces here. First time? Okay. Well, welcome. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining to you why we do these prayers, but they're not empty rituals. They have meaning, and if we, once you have a chance to study these and understand the meaning, it can be quite powerful in terms of setting your mind up for successful practice, either meditation or study. So the first one we're going to do is taking refuge in bodhicitta. And I will say this, there's 2 motivations that are important, probably 3, for taking refuge. Excuse me. The first one is called this kind of a dumbed down term, but the text describes it as fear, but most people see that as kind of a bad word and paralyzing, but dread really does describe it. It's kind of like having some sense of like my life is out of control to some degree. Certainly my mind is out of control. And if things go on like this, as I get older and then eventually sick and have to face my own demise, things could get pretty crazy. And so I dread the thought of going forward in my life with a mind that's out of control, basically, and the consequences of that, both short and long term. So that's number one. The other reason for taking refuge is confidence that, for example, the enlightened beings and their teachings and the realization of those teachings in their minds and eventually in our minds and the spiritual community, that that's a reliable source of guidance. So there's this dread, this confidence, and then the third one is compassion, really for ourselves and then for other people, because eventually what we'd like to do is to be able to help others in every conceivable way to stop their suffering and find their own true, lasting, stable happiness and joy and freedom. So that's another motivation for us taking refuge. So those 3 things. So we'll do that. Then we'll do the 4 measurables: immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and then the 7-limb prayer, and then the mandala offerings, kind of like imagining we're offering the universe for the teachings. It's like, if we saw these teachings as like the key, out of our suffering to true lasting happiness, we would offer everything we have, wouldn't we? We'd be so grateful for that. So anyway, some people do this. I do it just to, it's, in almost every religious tradition, people put their hands at their heart when they do prayers. I think it helps to speak from the heart, but doesn't necessarily guarantee that, does it? All right. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment, friends, and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this as a Buddha feel and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamne Yatayami, which means I send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious teachers. All right, that's enough for now with the prayers. Now we'll do it. We'll start out doing a little meditation, and maybe for about 5 or 10 minutes, let people. If you've never meditated ever, and the people in the back, have you meditated? Yeah, okay. Well, the main thing is just to sit up straight, isn't it, and focus your mind. And the two kinds of meditation we're going to do right now. One is a so-called placement or concentration meditation, but you place your mind on some object like the breath. Could be, you could visualize some, in the text they often say visualizing an image of the Buddha, but that's a little bit hard to do. The breath is readily accessible, so you can focus at the tip of the nose or the rising and falling of the abdomen, and just watch your breath. And then in a few minutes, I'll start lead a little guided meditation, that's the other kind of meditation. It's more contemplative. Okay, so we'll start out like that. So take a moment to examine your motivation or your reason for being here this morning. That's just part of your awareness practice. Like, why did I get up and drive all the way over to Godamba Center? Like, what's in it for me? Why am I here? And at some level, everybody's here for the roughly the same reason. You know, we don't want to. We want to find something positive for our minds to make us happier. Maybe it's curiosity, but still underlying all of that is because we're constantly driven by this, whether we're aware of it or not. The desire for happiness and the desire to avoid suffering. At some level, we're just exactly alike in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. And that's why we're here. Now, there's a motivation that we call in Tibetan and Mahayana Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism being one example of that. Zen also is a Mahayana Chinese Buddhism. They're all in that same school of Buddhism. But the principal motivation for practice is it's said that you need to train yourself this way because it's not natural. It's actually for others. We practice in order to develop ourselves in this as fully as we can, eliminating our faults like anger and jealousy and stress and pride and arrogance and all those things that obstruct our, that whenever our mind is pervaded by these so-called negative mind states, we're agitated, we're not happy, depressed, whatever. We want to be free of that, and we want to develop all the positive qualities because they make us happy. Compassion, wisdom, joy, freedom. We want that. So the purpose of practice is to develop our positive qualities in order to be able to be a perfect guide and servant to others. So eliminate our faults, develop our positive qualities so that we can help others. Purpose is to help guide others. So as much as we can, we try to align our motivation with that kind of thinking. Even though it's not natural, it's kind of effortful at this time. It's okay. Finishing my coffee. Okay, it's not coffee. So today, I think that today was titled, what was it titled? Does anybody else, did anybody care? But did anybody read what this was supposed to be about, the conversation? Good. Nobody knows, so I can make it up. Probably a good thing. No, it could be though, but it's not. I decided, since I'm not paid to work here, I have some, I don't know what the word is, license to go places and talk about things that I think are important, that I think are interesting. So I'm going to write some quotes down, and some of these people that said these things you're going to recognize, and some of the people you're not. But I want you to really, the point, what I wanted to address today was, I think it's a wrap that spiritual practice, Buddha, religion in general, spiritual practice maybe too, is, as well, gets this particular rap that, well, if you're a spiritual practitioner, fun is over. Can't go to Disney World, you just have to. I mean, I'll give you a little quote here just to set it up too. I remember one of my first experiences in Tibetan Buddhism, and as I was studying it, I thought, wow, this covers every aspect of my life. It's kind of like I was talking to a monk, I believe, and I said, it seems like it's all or none. Like you either in or out. And he said, no, it's monk or none. I didn't want to hear that. But obviously, we have, our teacher's a monk. He's been a monk since he was about 6 or 7. I mean, obviously a novice monk when he was like 6 or 7 years old, and he's not here right now, obviously. But Geshe Gelik will be back in a few weeks. Geshe Sampo's been a monk since he was a little boy, and then we have three nuns now that are here. So there are a subset of people that really want to practice, more, you might say, pour their whole life into it. There are people like that, and I don't have an eraser. I can't use my hand. The first quote is, again, this is all having to do with fun. Please don't take this as a sexist remark, because it could be girls, boys. This thing's running out already. What's the next line? Huh? Just want to have fun. And that, I think, is Cyndi Lauper, but I'm not sure. Is that right? Just want to have fun. Cyndi Lauper. I'm thinking today, what now? We're breaking some new ground here, but I think, really my intent is to generate more questions than necessarily answers. There'll be some answers because I do have some content I'll cover, I promise. But then the other one, this one I heard as recently as yesterday. Hannah Brown. I'm bored. I'm not having fun. This is from an 11-year-old. Okay. Okay, now, let's see. I had several more. These pens are dying left and right. Tim, where are you? They're all impermanent. Thank you, Chris. We're moving over to the maroon ones now. It's appropriate. The this one you can't read. Okay. Yeah. I just have to deal with it. The purpose of life, you ready for this? Is to lead all sentient beings, SBs, or living beings is a more common term. Living beings. Wait a minute. To supreme enlightenment. And then lastly, that's Lama Thubten Zopa Rinpoche and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. You know, this is the Buddhist presentation of, I mean, that's the point. The whole purpose of life is for that. And then, let me see if I can say this the way this guy said it. Isn't, these things are dying, isn't, see, this must not be very important because there's no ink left to make it come out. Yeah. Here we go. Isn't, now, this is really important because this last one, I assert, is the cultural conversation that we all live. It's the air we breathe, and we're not even aware of it most of the time. But I think I'm going to say, I would like you to, we can debate it for sure. This is the other thing, nice thing about Buddhism, for those of you that are new here, you don't have to believe a word of what I'm saying. It's the Buddha said, look, challenge everything. See if it works. Does it make sense? Does it fit your experience? Does it help you? Does it hurt you? If it helps you, then you might want to look at adopting it into your life. But isn't that what it's all about? Having as much fun as we can while we can. I'll only give you his initials. All right. Isn't that what it's all about? Does anybody see that? I see it in my life a lot. I mean, don't you think there's something to that? Anybody got a problem with it? Do we have a microphone? Because this is not supposed to be just me talking the whole time. But what is there anything here? Anybody got a? Because there's a lot of different points of. Well, there's only a couple of different points of view here, really. But the last one, in a way, you know, and I think it really it's asking us also, what does the word fun really mean? Like, what is fun? Can Buddhists have fun? Go ahead, Chris.
That kind of goes against everything I've thought or been taught here at Kadampa Center. I'm sorry. I mean, you can have, maybe it's just my definition of fun, because
Yeah.
isn't it all about compassion and wisdom? And I guess you can rejoice if you help with the suffering of others.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you mean by fun?
Good
Or do you mean
question.
like,
what do
or
you
do you
mean
mean
by?
like,
Obviously, you have something else in mind. What do you mean by fun? When you say fun,
Well, when I read
you say
fun,
that's against the Dharma. You say fun's anti-Dharma.
no,
Everything you've been,
well,
every opposite
no,
of everything
I'm
you've
willing
learned.
to look at the definition of fun. But when I see that up there, the way you presented it, I think of, driving off the Porsche parking lot in a 911 Turbo,
Uh-huh.
and going to the disco, although that's kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Partying down. and-
Right, right.
Yeah. All right.
So I think, what do you mean by fun? That's the big
Good
thing.
question. So does anybody want to tell us what their definition of fun is? Is this one being streamed, Chris? Millions of people are watching, so just be careful. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I think of when I think of fun, but I guess what I do think is short term. Because I wouldn't think of, I guess, short term enjoyment is what I would think of when I think of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if I might enjoy, I wouldn't think of pursuing a lifelong career in
Right.
X or something is fun. It's more the kind of short term, short gain, short enjoyment.
So some kind of pleasure, would you say? Pleasure, fun equals pleasure, or
Yeah.
sort of, kind of?
Yeah, any kind of enjoyment.
Yeah. So you could actually enjoy robbing a bank if that was something that got, or, if you were a rapist or whatever, a molester, you could have fun doing a lot of things, couldn't you? Depending on your mind, right? So, but it's short-term enjoyment. That's fun. A little tricky, isn't it? Yeah, Chris. All right.
I think the second one from that great philosopher, Hannah Brown, says a lot about the way we think about fun now. It's the opposite of being bored. We can either be bored or it can be having fun. And it kind of implies to just change, doing one different thing after another is somehow inherently enjoyable.
Yeah.
As long as we don't get bored, that's really the enemy. Yeah.
Boredom is the enemy. By the way, I'm here to learn today. I've been asking everybody I know for the last few days, what do you think about this? Excuse me. Go ahead. Pass it to the back.
Thank you. I was going to say fun to me is the ability to enjoy myself in the moment, but it has to be free from worry, and I have to be on the path.
Mm-hmm.
So it is conditional.
Right.
The ability to sit down and just in any instance in time and enjoy yourself,
Right.
and to feel that pleasure, a lot of things have to be in place.
Right.
And free from worry, free from stress. Those are the
Mhm.
things.
So you can have, we were talking over coffee yesterday morning. We were talking to a friend, and he said, I enjoy, fun for me is like a nice conversation with a friend, like talking about something that's meaningful, or like having a great meal with a friend, or, and, sharing a bottle of wine if that's what you want to do, or it could be going to the state fair either by yourself with other people and having, but it it looks to me like fun is something that you do with your body or your speech or your mind. But ultimately, the mind is the determinant, isn't it? Because you could be doing something one day that brings you fun, and after you've done it for 30 days in a row, you're bored. It doesn't cause any more. I mean, the fun's gone, isn't it? So it's not inherently in any particular experience that we have fun. Yeah, go ahead, please. By the way, I'm going to explain why the more you do something, the more dissatisfying it is in a minute. That's the one piece of information you'll get.
Well, nowadays, when I think of having fun, it doesn't involve any regrets afterwards. And I don't know how many people in here had fun in the traditional ways. What was it Chris was talking about, going and partying down, then the next day you're like, why did I drink so much beer or whatever? And it's like, I wouldn't do something now. I wouldn't call that fun, if you're going to suffer for it the next day or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, this brings up another point that I think is directed against Buddhism and any religious traditions in general, but Buddhism has an answer for spontaneity. You hear this sometimes. People say, "Well, all of these rules and there's like so many vows, and if there are 5 lay vows. You know what they are? Anybody? Raise your hand if you know what they are. You get a. Robbie doesn't count. You go ahead. What are they? Strictly speaking, it is is defined that way. Although when I took the lay vows, Lama Yeshe, there were 5 of them, and the teacher who I took refuge with many years ago, I was in Nepal with about 200 people, and most everybody had come to Kathmandu for the drug. So, because marijuana was all over the place, and it was pretty. Well, I don't know if they were or not. They could have been, but my point was, he just said, look, Lama's point was, look, just set some limits on your behavior, whatever it is. If you drink, if you smoke all day long, then make a vow to smoke half the day, or whatever, or But he said that, but traditionally the 5 lay vows, and it makes sense. If a whole society lives this way, then you're going to have probably fewer problems. But avoid killing, right? Stealing, lying, adultery, and getting loaded, getting intoxicated. So it could be, beer, alcohol, any kind of drug, something that's going to alter your ability to be aware and present. So if you live by those vows, you go, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, if you take those vows seriously, go, well, there goes my spontaneity. I can't have fun anymore. I can't, I've heard that before. I heard it in my own head, but I've heard it from other people. What do you think about that? And I think it gets back to what you were saying just now. Go ahead, Chris. What do you think about it?
I kind of had a mind blank when you said, what are the 5 lay vows? But I do know them, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no drinking, no, what was the 5th one?
Lying.
Yeah, no lying. And I'm not bragging here, but maybe I had that mind blank because I really do try to live that way. Mm-hmm. And it just has become the way I live. I'm not bragging.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Right. I think
it's saying, well, how do you get oxygen into your body? And you really got to think about, it's because I breathe. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is my answer to the spontaneity thing and vows and stuff like that. If being spontaneous means that you drink so much that you have a hangover the next day, or that you do something to somebody else that's not only that's harmful, either emotionally or whatever. I mean, if you in your moment of spontaneity, you created a big icky mess, right? But you got to be spontaneous and you had fun, but the results of it are a big mess. Is that the kind of spontaneity you want? So in Buddhism, there's a real, they talk about the vows as actually being freedom. because the spontaneity that comes that harms others is not spontaneous. It's just our habit from beginningless time. We have trained ourselves to follow the mandates of our ego. And the ego has habits. And so if we give in to the ego's sort of impulses, we will always lead, it might lead to short-term pleasure and maybe fun, but it always leads to long-term suffering. That's the point in Buddhism. So as Chris was saying, if we can set some limits on our behavior, I mean, as she said, just take one vow. Don't kill. That's huge. Don't kill anything. That's huge. If you decide not to steal, that's even better. Or steal less. But, he really did encourage people to just set some kind of real limits on their behavior because there's no freedom in being a slave to conditioned mind, which is what happens when we behave spontaneously sometimes. However, over time, we can train the mind to actually make better choices by taking some vows. So within the vows of, like people get married, I mean, a lot of people get married and they take a vow to be with this person. Now, some people don't. They ignore that vow and their marriages don't work out very well. But the ones, the people that have successful marriages that have made a vow to stay together and to not cheat and blah, 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 they can still have a whole lot of fun and they can still enjoy themselves, but they're doing it within some limitations that they placed on that particular relationship. And it's the same way about our lives as a community. If we have vows not to kill, which is antithetical to the ego, isn't it? The ego wants to defend itself and go hunting and do whatever it wants to do, but not to kill, not to steal. Sexual misconduct means harmful sexual activity, but it also has to do with having sex with somebody else's partner. Not to lie, not to get loaded, because when you get loaded, you could do all the other four and not care about it. So if we live within those kinds of vows, they're like a little fence that you might put around a seedling, a little tree that you're trying to grow. It's a way to protect it from these impulses that could lead to harmful choices. So from a Buddhist perspective, being spontaneous, i.e., following the impulses of our conditioned mind from beginningless time, which is driven by egocentricity, that's not freedom at all. That's not freedom. That's bondage. That's not the kind of freedom we're looking for. We're looking for freedom that's joyful and actions that create the causes for more happiness, not more suffering for us and others. So there's different, there's an important distinction that we need to make about freedom and fun. I think a lot of us equate fun with pleasure. We use that word. Let's talk about. I'm gonna write some things down here, and I'm afraid if I bend down, I won't be able to get back up. So I have to be careful here. I don't want to erase this because I think I'll save it for next time. I'll move the chair over here. All right. So these are. This is another thing that I think Buddhism gets a bad rap for. All right, so these are, I'm going to call it, these are the sources of fun, pleasure, whatever, okay? Now, over here is everything that you can ever think of. Doesn't have to be these four things I mentioned, but it includes, you try to imagine that these four categories subsume everything in the world that's delicious and desirable, okay? So the first one is pleasure. And over here is everything that we think is undesirable. So what's the opposite of that? Pain. Don't want that. All right. Then over here, gain. Now, pleasure is body, it's the physical pleasure, mental pleasure, which obviously is in control of the whole game, but verbal, speech, physical, any kind of pleasurable experience that would be associated with a positive feeling. Okay. Gain could be gain, we think of material gain, but it could be gaining a relationship, children, money, job, 401k, Mercedes. What were you talking about, Chris? Yeah, 911 Turbo. But anything that's, and then the opposite of that would be to lose it, right? Loss. If you lost that 911 Turbo, you lost that marriage, you lost that child. Oh, that's going to be tough. That's going to be painful. All right. Then the next one is pleasure, gain, fame. Also, we could think of it as like good reputation. And supposedly, I'm not sure I believe it, but I've heard it said, this is the one we're most attached to, by the way. Good reputation. And then, let's see, fame, disgrace, right? Bad reputation. When you see your face on the front page of the News and Observer on Sunday morning for something you did wrong, you don't like, that will not be a good day. All right. And then pleasure, pain, game. All right. Hold on. Pleasure, gain, fame, praise. All right. Praise. I like to think of it as like approval, same thing. Okay, think of it like that. Because how many of us like approval? Oh, we are like, we walk around like, would you please like me? Oh, please like me. We're all that way. We all want approval. We all want to be praised and told how great we are, and we don't want to be blamed or disapproved of, right? Disapproval. All right. Now, I'm going to say that there's really not a line there, but because this is just the flip side of this, isn't it? If there's going to be pleasure, the flip side of it is pain. Because nothing lasts. None of this stuff lasts. All these things that we strive for, they don't last. There's a great Buddhist teacher that I was fortunate enough to meet in Thailand before he died. His name was Ajahn Buddha Dasa. And he was considered in Thailand at the time to be like a saint. And he said his definition of his way of breaking this down was saying we're all addicted to deliciousness. We're addicted to deliciousness. So everything that's pleasurable, that makes us feel good, we're so feeling oriented. And this is why it's really important to pay attention to our feelings. Buddhism is not about shutting down feelings. We have to know what our feelings are because we're addicted to pleasant feelings. So we need to pay attention to that. So he said we're now to the degree that we're addicted. And what do I mean by addicted? What do you think I mean by addicted? Let's hear from the back of the room over there. We haven't heard anything from the newbies. What do you think I mean by addicted? Any thoughts?
That we needed to survive.
Yeah, it has a feeling of clinginess, wouldn't you say? Stickiness, clinginess, grasping. We use the word grasping a lot in Buddhism. It's like mentally we cling to this. We cling to everything that's delicious. That's what we get up in the morning. We want these, don't we? We go to work for this. We literally live our lives in the hopes that we can get this. And I would say these are the sources of pleasure, and these are what JB's talking about when he's talking about fun too. A lot of it has to do with this. So the more that we cling to pleasure, can we avoid these? Is there any way to go through life and avoid pain, loss, disgrace, and blame and disapproval? Heck no. Now, the more we cling to this, the more we what when we get this? Suffer. Call it what you want to, but it's painful. We don't want it. Now, some people go around thinking, well, Buddhism says you can't have pleasure, that you can't go to Disney World, and you can't, have a great reputation and be well thought of, and if people praise you, there's something wrong with, there's a whole conversation which I think is bogus, but it's, people think, oh, these are bad things. We need to avoid these. We need, if you get pleasure and gain and stuff like that, if you get that 9/11, somehow that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's the attachment to the gain and the pleasure and the fame and the praise, the clinging that creates the problem for us, that causes us to suffer when we lose the pleasure. When the pleasurable experience ends, call it a good meal, maybe it's intimacy, whatever it is, but it doesn't last, does it? Its very nature is to not last. So when it ends, we're either left here in sort of la-la land, in neutral land, wanting to get back over here, and when we get what we don't want, which is the opposite of it, wow, we suffer. So it's the same thing. The more we cling to deliciousness, the more we suffer when we lose it. And what do we cling to more than anything? More than anything, and it's not this. Pardon? Ourselves. We cling survival. That's our instinct. And so the more we cling to our sense of self, which in Buddhism is kind of interesting because there certainly is a self, but it's not, but the self that we talk about in Buddhism is we've been deluded for many, 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 many years. In fact, this whole lifetime, to believe that we are somebody we're not, and we cling to this false sense of self. And when that self is getting ready to die, we freak out because that's all we know. That's who we are. So we cling for survival, right? And it causes a huge amount of suffering. So So Chris, go ahead. You got to know.
I was just the root. They call it the root delusion, don't they?
What? The clinging?
Right. The ego. That's the root delusion.
That's the root delusion. That's the tap root for all the suffering. Absolutely. So what's the answer here? If there is such a thing as an answer?
Emptiness and compassion.
It is. What does that mean? What does that mean? Emptiness and compassion. I mean, we used to have a sign in the old center. If those of you who remember those days before we moved here, you walk in the door and it's a quote from Lama Zopa, and it said something along the lines of live with compassion, work with compassion, enjoy yourself with compassion, and die with compassion. Something like that. But the key was, yeah.
I think it said, if problems arise, approach them with compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the last line. So, yeah, so all of it, so compassion is a key part of it. It's a key part of it. But just from a very practical point of view, for us, I mean, when you walk out of here today, I can promise you, if you're unhappy about something, you're clinging to something. If you go home and you're bored, it's because you're clinging to being stimulated, right? If you go out of here and you feel pain in your knees and you can't stand it, it's because you're attached to pleasure. You like it when at least you're neutral and not having pain. So the point is that we can't avoid this. We're going to have some pleasure and gain in all this, and we're going to have some of this. So to the degree that we can be in the moment, live in the present, which sounds like a platitude, but just bear with me, but live in the present with compassion and wisdom. That is, we don't cling to pleasure. This is how we can have pleasure. This is how we can truly have pleasure. In fact, the pleasure that we have now, Lama Yeshe said, when he was asked this question about, well, it looks like Buddhists can't have fun, he said, au contraire. He said, the point of Buddhism is to have bliss. Forget about fun. Let's have bliss, like fun beyond your wildest imagination. It's called nirvana. It's called enlightenment. Well, let's have, way more fun. But let's not think that ordinary worldly fun is the best fun there is. There is a kind of a fun that depends upon the mind being free and being motivated by wisdom and compassion. That's amazing. So to the degree that we can experience pleasure without clinging to it, we can really enjoy it, right? Because we're not afraid of pain. The more we cling to the pleasure, the more the flip side of it is I'm afraid of pain. The more I cling to pleasure, at that very moment, I'm fearing pain. It's there in the experience. The fear is there in the experience of the pleasure, even though I don't recognize it. The fear of losing that 911 when you drive it off the lot, when you cling to it, when you identify it as me and mine, you're already worried about somebody's, key in your car or bumping into it. It's right there in that moment. So the more that we cling to these, the more we suffer. I'm saying it over and over again. The more we cling here, the less enjoyment we have when we actually have these experiences, and the more we suffer when we don't have them, or when we get the opposite. Like on this line is when we don't have them. Well, if you don't have it, and you're addicted to it, like the junk, like the crack cocaine or whatever drug it is of your choice, when you don't have it, what do you want? You want the fix. You got to get back over here and get the pleasure from the junk. So it's very, very interesting. So letting go. This sounds so crazy. Just letting go. Letting go of the attachment to pleasure. Letting go of the attachment to gain, fame, and praise. It's just simply letting go. Simply letting go of the attachment to not experiencing pain. I am attached to not experiencing pain is a kind of clinging, isn't it? Isn't it? I'm attached to not experiencing pain. Said another way, I fear pain. I'm afraid of pain. I don't want pain. I feel aversion to pain. So letting go of so when you have pain, which you're inevitably going to have, you're sitting in the hospital, you got a broken leg, or you got pneumonia, or somebody just cut you open to take out a cancer, or whatever it is, or you're on a ventilator, or whatever suffering, or you're depressed or you're stressed, whatever it is, being able to to experience that discomfort without wishing it were anything different than what it is, not exactly like buckling under and saying I don't care, but it's like, okay, I can accept it in the moment. Now I can make it better too, but not resisting what is. Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious because you and Robbie are both doctors, so you know that when somebody has altered brain chemistry, a lot of times they go and they try to seek pleasure. They use drugs or whatever, trying to seek pleasure. For those people, it seems that it's a lot more difficult for them to let go because their brain chemistry isn't, it's off. So just would you address that?
I'll let Robbie talk about that. I think that's karma. That's just their karma at that particular moment. Although I know that people, I've seen plenty of people beat addiction. I've seen plenty of people not beat it. It takes a huge effort over time to change your mind. I mean, that's why, I have friends and I know people that go to AA 2 times a day for years. Why? Because they have an addiction and they can't control their impulses, and they need the support. This is why spiritual community is really important. And people come every Sunday a lot of times because this is a place where, we may not be dealing directly with some heavy addictive thing, but they get that kind of support. It takes a lot of time and training to change the mind.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that as well. I think sometimes too. I mean, it's not a hard line between what we consider addiction versus just pursuit of attachment. I mean, addiction is attachment for something that they crave, but when you talk about brain chemistry, people think, oh, alcohol, that's an addictive substance. Oh, cocaine, that's addictive. But what about gambling? What about sexual misconduct? What about cheating? What about kleptomaniacs who steal? There's also what about watching too much TV? What about playing video games? What about procrastinating? There's all sorts of bad behavior that we kind of pursue against our better judgment.
Right.
And I think that's all kind of, it's just a continuum of things that we all face on some level.
Yeah. We're all junkies, just different junk. Yeah. We all have our areas that we need to work on. Now, this is what Lama Yeshe would say. He said, try to pinpoint your top 1 or 2 delusions and work on those. Don't try to take it all on at one time. But for example, if alcohol or procrastination or, boredom is your Achilles heel, so to speak. Excuse me. Anyway, so anything else?
Just continuing with the analogy of addiction and junk, I think something that's helpful for me is to realize that the stuff on the left side there, the positives, it's never satisfactory. Even when we get it, we want more, and we have to have it in bigger amounts. No matter how much gain you have, you always want more. It doesn't satisfy that attachment, that craving.
Right. One of there are many ways Chris talked about this emptiness. That's a little hard. That's a hard one to use as an antidote, for example, to our addiction to, say, for example, pleasure, but something that leads in that direction toward emptiness is seeing the impermanence of things. Like, for example, this doesn't last. So if we understand that when we're experiencing pleasure, whatever it might be, there are a lot of people here that are married that have, sex lives and enjoy intimacy with their partners and stuff like that. Understanding that is not a permanent situation, that it's a temporary thing, and that then it's possible to actually have more pleasure than if we're addicted to the pleasure, for example. So it's not, Buddhism's not saying for example, that now if you're a monk or a nun and you have a vow to celibacy, that's a different game. That's a different commitment, and that's fine. But Buddhism's not saying that it's wrong to have pleasure or to have fun. It's just, don't cling to it. And as much as we can, bring compassion into that moment. For example, if you're with your children at Disney World, or down at the beach and stuff like that, let's not forget our Dharma practice. Like, for example, Lama Zopa gave a whole list of things at the Lamp to the Path retreat. He said, when you sit down, think that I'm sitting down to liberate beings from the lower realms. Or when you open the door, I'm guiding sentient beings from suffering to supreme happiness. Or when you are experiencing some sort of pleasure, like a good meal or a good conversation or whatever, you can dedicate that pleasure to the happiness of all beings. Don't forget others. That's the whole key here, I think. Compassion is the wish that others could be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, and love is the wish that they could have happiness. So if you have if you see this beautiful sunset, offer it to the enlightened beings. If you have a pleasurable experience, offer it to the happiness of the enlightened beings or all living beings. In other words, this is a big part of Buddhism, is taking not leaving out any moment of your life as being distinct from spiritual practice. We can use every experience, pleasurable or painful, to wake up. Pleasurable or painful to create the causes for future happiness or future suffering, depending on the mind that approaches it. So it's not inherently bad or wrong to have any of these, is it? It's okay. It's the mind, the mind that we have, the mind that we bring to the party, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, we can have parties. You know, some people enjoy a drink. I'll finish up with a story. What time is it? Oh my gosh, I've gone over. But anyway. Oh, I do. Okay. Anyway, this story, about getting back to intoxicants and stuff like that. There was this monk who if I get this wrong, help me out here. But there's this monk, and he lived in a cave, and he was doing solitary retreat for for many years. And his benefactor's daughter was this really lovely, stunningly beautiful young woman who would bring him his food once a week. And then, one week she came and she propositioned the monk, and he said, I have a vow of celibacy. I can't do that. And then the next week she came and she said, well, if you don't have sex with me, she brought a goat. She said, I'm going to kill the goat. And she said, he said, well, what did she say? She said, if you don't have sex with me, you have two choices. You either kill the goat or you have sex with me. And he said, well, I can't do either one of them. I have a vow not to kill, and I still have a vow of celibacy. Somehow he got out of that one too. And then the next time she came back, she brought like a big jug of wine, and she said, well, look, if you don't do one of these three things, then I'm gonna kill myself. And she had a knife this time. She was really serious. He thought she was serious. So he said, well, I can't have sex because I have a vow of celibacy. I'm not gonna kill the goat because I have a vow not to kill. And I'm also a vegetarian. I'm not gonna eat meat either. And then the wine looked pretty benign. So what did he do? Anybody, can you figure this one out? This is pretty obvious, isn't it? He drank the wine, got drunk, killed the goat, cooked the meat, and had sex with the girl. So he did everything. All of them because he was intoxicated. So is a glass of wine a bad thing? No, but if it makes us stupid and do all the other bad things, then we need to not do it. So getting high and stuff like that. So that's why Lama Yeshe said, at least reduce the intake of drugs. Go from a half a day, all day, to a half a day, or, whatever. But I'm not Lama Yeshe, although I did ask him to hang in there with me today. He's been dead for a long time. But anyway, any parting comments? Chris, the part about emptiness and stuff like that, obviously that is the ultimate solution to this, is to see that, for example, this falsely projected sense of I that we have is the source of craving. And without that false sense of I, then there is no I that clings to pleasure and fears and dreads pain and all the negative stuff. In other words, the I that we believe and cling to so solidly, which Buddhism says is a fantasy, is a fiction, is the one that's responsible for clinging. It's responsible for all the suffering in the wheel of life.
I was kind of going bare metal there, so.
I'm sorry.
I was like going down to the root teachings,
Yeah.
bare metal, and
Yeah.
maybe that was wrong. And
Well, it's true. I mean,
Not
we
wrong.
can all see that, though, that every one of these is driven by a strong sense of I. I want pleasure. I want gain. I don't want pain. That I, that sense of I that feels so strong, particularly when we have a powerful experience of any of these, that I, that inflated sense of I, is the one that Buddhism says, that one is that's the delusion. That's the delusion. That's the false I. That's the one that doesn't exist. And we need to get a sense of it. It's called a gaccha, the object of refutation. It's like it's the false sense of I that doesn't exist, that we need to be able to see through and operate. We do exist, but not that way. That's important. So yeah. And yeah, so there is an I that can enjoy pleasure and gain and fame and praise, and not create negative karma, and not create the causes for future suffering. Yeah, and there's an I that can go through the hard stuff in life too, and deal with pain, and deal with loss, and deal with disgrace and blame, and not be totally rattled and depressed and end up on drugs and whatever. I mean, there's a way to do it with, and this is why we train. This is why the Dharma, this is what Buddhism is about for many of us. It's like we know we have some work to do, so we have to train. This is not going to happen. We're not going to walk out of here today and have this, like, our lives are going to be different. But hopefully we'll be paying attention a little bit more to how our egocentricity and lack of compassion for ourselves and others and so on causes us to suffer. But I wouldn't disagree with JB, excuse me. Let's have as much fun as we can, but let's have the right kind of fun, the kind of fun that doesn't lead to future suffering. End of discussion, I guess. Anybody have any other comments? Yes.
There's kind of one last thing on fun I thought was interesting is the whole Mark Twain kind of definition of fun is anything that you don't want to do is fun, and anything that you don't want to do is work. Anything that you don't have to do is kind of fun. So.
Okay. Well, I like Mark Twain. So good note to finish on. All right, so we have some dedication verses, and then you go back to the page, and I guess it's 36. Yeah, we'll just do those dedication verses on page 36 down, and maybe do long life prayer too for Lama Zopa. And then what is that? They've done so many things to this book, I can't tell what it is. Okay, we'll just do that, and then the long life prayer for Lama Zopa, and then we'll do some mantras at the end. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen, arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. O powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subduer's moral way. Her serve is the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Then at the bottom, there's two mantras. They come in, they're different tunes, and I can never remember. there's, I mean, oh, I've got one I like, a different tune than the one we usually do. It sounds a little bit like the New Christie Minstrels, which nobody remembers. It goes, "Oh mani padme hum, oh 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 mani padme hum." That's the mantra of compassion. And then Tara mantra. Again, I can't remember. So there's a different tune that I've learned to this one that I will do this one too. Om tare tu re so ha. 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 Okay, so thank you for your attention. Now, one last thing before you go, I'd like for you to turn to somebody you don't know in here and shake their hand and introduce yourself and wish them a great day or happy life or whatever you want to say. But just introduce yourself to somebody new. Thank you.
Good
We have
morning,
one
everyone.
announcement.
Very quick announcement, I promise. My name is Sarah, and I'm out in the lobby signing up for volunteers for the Relic Tour. We have an amazing event coming this weekend. It's a tour of holy relics of the Buddha and the many holy masters of Buddhism. It's a really phenomenal thing. You can bring your animals to have them blessed, or you can just come and enjoy the tour yourself. But we need the entire community to volunteer because there are over 150 shifts over the course of the weekend of like 2 hours we need. So that's 300 hours of volunteers we need in one weekend. So if anybody can help, there's no experience necessary. It's a really fun thing to be involved in, really special. You'll really rejoice after you experience it that you were a part of it. So see me in the lobby if you'd like to help.
Does anybody feel less arrogant? I never asked that before. It is an antidote to that, though. All right, so we have children's with us. And so we're going to do the prayers. And it's kind of interesting. Geshe Gellick loves to have the children here to do the mantras, particularly because, anyway, what I've heard him say is, and I think it's probably some truth, the children are so much more pure than we are. So when they say the mantras, they're more powerful. So it's kind of nice to have them here to be part of that. And then they'll go off and do their thing in a minute. We're not going to do the prayers in Tibetan this week. I don't speak Tibetan, so I'm just going to stick with the English version of it. So we'll do on page 34 and page 35 all the way down, and then we'll skip over, because I think we like to do the mantras with the kids. We'll skip over and do the Almighty on the bottom of page 37, Chenrezig mantra and Green Tara mantra. So we'll do that at the end of the prayers. So we have. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier. The motivation for taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, rather than have these be some sort of, like canned, like we're parroting these prayers because, they're here. We're not really thinking about what we're doing. We need to at least pause for a moment and try to remember why we're taking refuge and why we're generating bodhicitta. And the things to reflect on. The first one is the easiest way to say it is dread. It's like having some sense of dread of what the future is going to be like with the kind of mind that we have. We can't even, we can't control our minds. We can't. I mean, you might think you can. Sit down for 1 minute and try to focus on your breath. Goes every which way. So living a life in this process of uncontrolled causation that we call samsara can only be problematic. So we have to have some sense of that, and and when we have that, we have some sort of dread, like, wow, I need some help. I've got a problem here. And then the other motivation that's helpful is a sense of confidence, sometimes called faith, that the three jewels, the Buddhas, the enlightened beings, their teachings, the realizations of the teachings, and the spiritual community, and our ability to become a Buddha, to realize the teachings, and to be part of that spiritual community. So we're taking refuge in all of that. We have confidence that that's a valid source of refuge. So if we have that, plus a little bit of compassion for ourselves and others, come on in, guys, have a seat. That's all good. That's all good. And so we want to reflect briefly on those things before we start doing the prayers of four measurables. So the refuge and bodhicitta, and the four measurables are immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And then the seven limb prayer, we'll read that. And that's, again, very powerful prayer. It has a lot of meaning if you understand what it means. And then a mandala offering is like offering up everything in Crabtree Valley, for the teachings. Like all the wonderful things in the world you would be willing to offer for teachings that could help you solve your problems. So, Lama Yeshe used to say, just imagine Walmart, offering everything in Walmart. But, that doesn't do it for me. But, just imagining offering everything that's good to the enlightened beings to get their teachings like that. Okay. All right, so I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this as a Buddha fill and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyata Yami. So, Aaron, I'm going to let you lead the mantras. Where are you? Do you know the tune? Yeah. Let's do Om Mani Padme Hum because I have a different tune and I can't remember the one they do here. Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. Now, Tara. Yeah. Do daddy do re so ha. 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 Okay. Anything else? Okay, bye. You want to check your reason for coming today to Kadampa Center. Like, why are you here? You could have been in bed. You could be like playing video games or watching TV or maybe doing something completely different, but you chose to come here. So what is it that, what is your reason for coming today? What's your motivation for coming? You know, without even talking to anybody, I already know I'm psychic. I can tell you exactly why you're here. Because this is what runs sentient beings, human beings, living beings, 24/7. And whatever story we tell ourselves, we don't want to suffer and we want to be happy. It comes down to that. We don't want to suffer and we want to be happy. And everything we do 24/7 is for that reason. And sometimes it doesn't look very pretty, but that's what motivates living beings, is the desire for happiness and the desire to be free of and avoid suffering. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Not a bad thing. And there's a motivation that's more magnanimous, that's more powerful. Like if you want to go someplace, you want the most powerful engine, you know, in your jet, so to speak, or in your boat. If you want to get from point A to point B, and the most powerful engine for spiritual realization is one that focuses, you know, instead of me, I want to be happy and I want to suffer, which is again valid. It's focused on others. You know, how can I help others? What can I do for others? You know, I woke up this morning to get dressed and eat breakfast and come to Kadampa Center for others. How many of us had that thought? I want to develop myself spiritually so I can help others. I dedicate my life as much as I can to others. So there's, our spiritual teachers say that attitude of striving for perfection, even though it sounds like impossible, it sounds so out there, but we strive to purify our minds of these negative habitual patterns. Call it what you want, karma, but that's what it is. We want to purify these, eliminate these destructive habitual patterns that drive us into the ground so many times, again and again. We want to eliminate those or diminish them, and we want to develop positive qualities of mind, like love and compassion and kindness and generosity, and a sense of freedom, a sense of joy. That's what we want. So we can do this through a systematic retraining of the mind. So we strive for this supreme happiness of enlightenment, not just for ourselves, but so that we can help others. That's said to be the rocket fuel, or the strongest, the strongest motor to get us from where we are now, whatever that looks like, to the highest conceivable happiness. And it's something that we can do with our mind. We have that potential. So as much as we can, we try to align our thinking this way, and at least have that motivate the next hour. Like, I'm going to do what I can to develop my mind in a positive way, so I can help my family, my coworkers, just my community. Forget about all sentient beings. Let's just talk about the people that you're going to be around today and tomorrow, like that. Make it real for you. So does anybody know what I'm supposed to talk about today? I don't think it was that. I don't think it was put on the listserv. It's okay. I told no. When I told Sarah Brooks, I knew she wasn't going to write it down. But anyway, it's like I'll give you some clues here if I can get my gadget to work. It probably won't work. This is so a couple of weeks ago I was in New York listening to the Dalai Lama, and they had long lines because the security was hard to get through. So then I went up to several friends, people that I've known that have been into the Dharma for like 20 plus years, and I bugged them. I said, I'm gonna make you infamous here. So here we go. Let's see who this is first. If you can't hear it, I'll put it up to here. Oh, shucks. This is Lauren Ladner, who's been here. He wrote a book on Buddhism and compassion. Hang on a minute. Technology will prevail. It says I'm connected. Come on, Jill, help me out here. Oh, here we go. This might work now. Okay.
Things are finicky.
I know.
There you go.
See, it didn't work there.
Turn your volume.
It is, I think.
If you're on silent, does that make a difference?
How do you know? Maybe.
Is it okay for Buddhists to have
Did you hear that?
Lord? Give me the
This is Lord.
I think for sure, as long as it's compassionate fun.
You can forget it.
That didn't work either. So he said, I said, is it okay for Buddhists to have fun? And he says, for sure, but don't forget compassion. That was the message. This thing worked a few minutes ago.
This is Dr. Lorne Ladner, famous author and good friend. Is it okay for Buddhists to have fun, Lorne? Give me the 25 words or less.
I think for sure, as long as it's compassionate fun.
Compassionate fun. Okay, give me a little bit more.
Compassionate fun.
Fun that's not hurting others. Maybe that's sharing your joy with other people.
Okay.
Seems pretty good.
Thank you.
All right. This is Bernard. Bernard's been he's been like 40 years plus. He's anyway, he's been here before. He's a very nice man.
Happy and happiness is fun.
So bliss is the best fun.
Bliss is the best fun.
Can Buddhists have fun? And you said,
I said if you can, generation of bliss is incredible happiness. Mixing that with emptiness. I mean, what better fun could you possibly have with life?
Amen. I like that. Okay. That was Bernard.
Bliss. Yeah, bliss. But we're not there yet, probably. But Bernard said bliss is what could be more fun than bliss, Enlightened beings have total bliss all the time. I like that. Now, Wendy Cook is Nick Rubish's wife, been practicing for decades, and they run Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So I called Wendy and I said, hey, Wendy.
This is Wendy Cook, longtime Dharma student and Tantrika, Dakini, all the. Anyway, this question is, Buddhism seems to be against fun or anti-fun, or you can't have fun if you're a Buddhist. Would you comment on what is your response?
Enjoy with wisdom.
Enjoy with wisdom. That's easy. Quick and
that was Robbie. All right, so that's it. Anyway, Wendy's very wise lady too. So you get lots of different answers from people. And for example, Lama Yeshe, I do think people sometimes come to spiritual practice and think, well, I've got to give up everything. My friends, my parties, my vacations, they go too far. They go too far. There's like Buddhism is about the middle way, isn't it? Free of the extremes. So giving up everything, for example, if somebody's considering to be a monk or a nun, that's fine. But I've been around this Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism for many years, and I've seen a lot of people who have given up everything to become monastics, and some of them have been able to keep their vows, and others, the vast majority, have not. They've given their vows back because it was too big a leap, But to give up the family life and stuff like that. So it's so the conversation today was really about. Well, let me see if I don't need this thing anymore. Really about trying to, and it's a discussion that I expect other people to help out with, because there's a lot of different things to talk about, and we're not going to get through it all today. Excuse me. But these are the notes from last time. I think I decided to leave them up here. Girls just want to have fun. Who was that? Cindy Lauper. Yeah, I put CL over there. Then I'm bored. I heard this yesterday. I'm not having fun. HB, Hannah Brown, 11-year-old daughter. Then Lama Zopa, you ask him, like, you know, what's fun? What's the purpose of life? And the Dalai Lama and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, and he says, the purpose of life is to lead all sentient beings, living beings, to supreme enlightenment. That's fun. That's what Lama Zopa would say is really fun. To be a Buddha and be able to leave, and that's total bliss. You know, that's the state of total bliss. Then JB, whose name will not be, I won't tell you who he is, but we'll come back to this one many times. I heard this standing around a fire about 3 or 4 years ago, and he said, we were just talking about stuff. And he said, isn't that what it's all about? Having as much fun as you can while you can. He's talking about life now. He said, isn't that what life's all about? Have as much fun as you can while you can. So I thought about that, and I agree with him. But I think we have to talk about this. We can't just say that's, you know, the way it is. I don't, you know, at one level I agree with him, and I don't know what his motivation is. Do you mind if I use that chair? Thank you. Yeah, good. Thank you. Generous. So anyway, so I'd like to hear some definitions of fun. There are a lot of fun-loving people here. Buddhism used to attract people that were just semi-depressed and wanted to be in dark rooms, but now there's a lot of fun people. All right, go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, talk about fun. Talk about your anything you want to. Yeah, okay, your reaction
sure.
to.
Since I have a microphone. Yeah, I just turned it on. Can you hear? Okay. For me, fun is being outside, enjoying nature. That's fun for me.
Okay. Being outside, enjoying nature. Okay.
I think people think what fun is doing what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how they want to do it.
Somebody, Mark Twain said that, I think.
Brass tacks. It's really, we don't think X is having fun if it's doing dishes or sweeping or having a fight, but we might think going in nature and going to a movie is fun because we just want to do that.
Yeah.
So if we redefine later what fun is, but it's really what we want to do when we want to do it.
Okay. Yes.
I think fun has a lot to do with my mood, because I could be doing anything I want to do, but still not be having fun.
Right.
So it's a state of mind rather than any particular situation or activity.
Yeah. Well, let's say your particular activity was going into nature. Was that what you said? How long do you usually go into nature? How long does it take for you to be in nature before you're having fun? A minute, okay. Okay, well, if you did that 24/7 for like a month, would you still be having fun? You'd be in nature.
I guess really, maybe I didn't use the word. Maybe what I'm talking about isn't quite, you can't define it as fun as in just maybe peace of mind.
Yeah, so the activity itself, you know, over time is going to get boring, if not downright offensive. You know, the thing that you like eating a good meal, you go, oh, I had a really good meal last night. I went, oh, this is great. This is nice. You know, but if I'd have kept eating, I would have gotten sick. It was fun up until a certain point, then it became like a problem. So kind of like you said, attitude is everything. That's the chief determinant of whether any particular activity is going to bring us pleasure. Now I'm equating, you got to be careful here because I'm shifting words on you. But pleasure. Most time equals fun. Wouldn't you say? Pleasure, fun. Yeah. All right.
Oh, yeah. What I was going to say is that it's when I'm absorbed in an activity and don't notice the rest of the world around me. And it could be writing a program, which is what I do professionally. Sometimes that really feels like work, but sometimes, it feels like, I'm engaged in doing it. Sometimes it's painting a wall at home, or whether it's cleaning or out doing a hike. It's when I'm absorbed to the point that I don't notice anything else except the activity that I'm doing.
Somebody over here. So again, it's not, because sometimes you've done your programming and hated it, right? So it's the state of mind that you bring to that experience that makes it fun, pleasurable, if we're going to use the terms interchangeably. Yes.
I think it was just complimenting what she said, that when Geshe-la says so many times, joyfully doing, if you're going to do something doing with joy,
right.
This is what can be fun. You can be washing your dishes and having fun because you're doing with joy. So it's a state of mind. Mostly.
State of mind. Okay. Yeah.
That's along the same lines as what I was thinking more analytically. It's not really what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much to agree with what everybody else says, that I think if you're present with whatever you do in any moment can be fun. Anything can be fun if you're 100% present. Even washing the dishes can be fun if you're 100% present with it. And walking can be fun if you go to the nature, and it's fun because nature kind of forces us to be present, to be watching the leaves and the trees and flowers. That's the fun part of it, because we are mostly to be present at that moment instead of doing something else.
So why? I got a question. So I've heard it enough times that I decided to have it. And I asked these three people at this meeting. I've heard it so many times, and even people in other like Christianity, they say people get turned off because it looks like it's like no fun. I can't have fun anymore. What is it? What is it about? I mean, where did that come from? What do you think? Why do you think people think that we can't have fun? Yeah.
I think people associate giving up things with lack of fun. You don't want to give up things, you want to get things. And that's kind of what we're taught since we're kids, is to go out and get things, get as much as you can.
Right. So giving up, for example, give me some examples of what you might have to give up to have fun. I mean, when you come here, what might you have to give up?
I don't really give up anything.
Give up money. Did you say money? Oh, you didn't give up anything.
Really
good. Well, hey, okay. Go ahead.
But okay, so one more thing. About having fun. I've kind of learned that it's not so much what you're doing, but it's who you're doing it with and having the right attitude while you do it. So,
and what?
I was just saying, it's not what you do, but who you do it with. Because you can do something with, the right people or the wrong people, and that makes all the difference.
Okay, thank you. Right here.
To me, personally, having fun, there's a big element of personal importance that gets in the way of having fun, either when you're doing dishes, brooming, or taking a shower. So, if I stop taking things too personal, then, suddenly you're singing and I don't know, it's like a joke. It's light. It becomes lighter what you're doing.
Good.
And with regard to giving up, like when taking the lay vows, a lot of people tend to have an issue of giving up alcohol because how am I going to have fun doing certain social situations, which I've always, alcohol's always complimented, like going to a football game, New Year's Eve. But if you ask any alcoholic, they'll tell you that their life, exponentially improved once they gave up alcohol. So it's that long term of understanding that once you give up the attachment for alcohol, those events are going to be so much more fun than they were when they were attached to alcohol. And then the other thing I think when going to compassion is it's like I can't do the self-indulgent fun. So if I want to sit in my house and watch Netflix all day, but now you're telling me I can't because that's too self-indulgent, I have to go out and help people. When I coordinated a volunteer program, that's what people would say is, oh my gosh, I volunteered and I had the most fun I've ever had on a Saturday. That's so much better than if I sat in my house and did the self-indulgent Netflix all day. But it takes that first step. You have to do it 5 times before it really becomes, ingrained in part of your life, and that you truly know that that's more fun than the self-indulgent fun.
Right. Well, that's what Lauren Ladner, the first guy, he said, do what you do, but do it with wisdom and compassion. And then it becomes Dharma practice, not just fun, but Dharma practice, which I think as a spiritual community, it's not just about having fun, but it's also, this is for me important to as I know I don't have a lot of time left on this planet, so none of us really do. We don't know, but there's a finite amount of time, so we want to make as much of a positive impact on our karmic continuum as we possibly can. So how can we take every moment of this life and have fun, but also have it be the cause for future happiness? That is, infuse that moment of fun with wisdom, with compassion. I think that's something worth thinking about. Yeah, one other person back here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I think the reason why most people would give up is because the routine kicks in. So they start doing things and then they think about the outcome. So after a while, it becomes a routine. They no longer enjoy what they're doing. Instead of doing that, instead of thinking about the result, they should just enjoy what they are doing, and then they can have fun forever.
Yeah. Let's see. We got one more, and then I'm gonna say a little bit. Well, you had.
It's like cleaning out a horse barn. If you're out alone shoveling out the stalls, it's a real drag. It's not fun. But when you have 3 or 4 people next to you, you're all shoveling the stalls. You have the smell of the manure and the grain and the horses, and you can laugh and talk. And then all the manure, goes to the garden. So next year you have a better garden. And that's fun. But being alone, it's not fun.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for. Let's see. Andre wants to say one thing, and then I need to say a few things. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I think I need for myself when I first started on this path, and I was doing Discovering Buddhism class. There's two things because of my misunderstanding of what they were really scared me. And one was renunciation. This whole idea of just giving up everything. I didn't understand what renunciation really was, and so that really scared me because I didn't want to give up everything. I wanted to hold on. I like to dance. I like song. I like music. I like the things that bring me pleasure and bring me joy. And so I had an idea that renunciation meant that I had to give up all of that. And that's not what it is at all. And the other one was emptiness. That scared the hell out of me. Because it's this thing about the way I understood it was that nothing exists, right? So therefore, if nothing exists, then what matters? And that leaves a very unpleasant taste in your mouth. And so emptiness doesn't mean that nothing exists. Things just don't exist in the way that we perceive them to be. But things do exist. And so when I began to understand what that was about, and then I realized, oh, then I don't have to be a stoic. I don't have to just like isolate myself and just not really enjoy the things that I enjoy people. Because if I think, well, that nothing exists and that's all impermanent and they're here with me today and not tomorrow, then what does it all matter? Why make relationships? I think we get into that bag sometimes. Why even try? You know, and I think that presents a problem. So then we don't have fun, right? And then it becomes just a misery for us. And what the heck is that? You know, I don't want that.
Okay. Well, I touched on a lot of stuff. So I'll turn it over to Robbie. No, he won't do it. To tell me I'm on my own today. So I'm going to start off saying something about what Andre said about renunciation and emptiness and all that. Of course, and he's right. You know, emptiness. For those of you who don't really know much about Buddhism. That's how you get out of suffering, ultimately, is to see that things are, that basically we sit right here, all of us are having our own little karmic experience of Sunday morning at Kadampa Center. But we think we're all having the same experience. But no, I'm having mine, and you're having yours, and you're having yours, and you're having yours. And there is no ultimately true Kadampa Center experience. It's just our own version of it. And furthermore, not only are we having our version of it, we believe it. Like, Don Brown is boring. And we believe it. And there's some truth. For you, it's true. If somebody else, you think somebody else's thoughts were really good. And for you, that's true. But emptiness is really challenging us to take responsibility for our projections and seeing that they're not, that it's just our projections, that there's no inherently existent out there truth that, that exists independent of my mind. My mind is constantly creating my reality. I believe in it, and then I react to it. And that's what creates a lot of problems for me. And then I project a false sense of I, which is the real ultimate, the biggie. We have a strong sense of, self or I. Like when we're experiencing any of these or these, these are the biggies, the things that we all are addicted to, right? And the things that we all feel aversion toward over here. Whenever we have some strong emotional experience, we can see it so clearly. There's a right now, even now, you can think, okay, my body is sitting and my mind is thinking, where's the I? There seems to be an owner of the body and mind right now, doesn't it? Where is that I? Then you get upset about something and it really gets inflated. That I, the Buddhist saw through that. He said that is a complete fiction. We exist, but not that way. And if we don't see that, we will always, always suffer. So let me move over here to my 8 worldly dharmas, which is my favorite teaching in Buddhism, but I sometimes forget it. But it's really important, and it has a lot to do with, I think, what we, when people or come in here and they go, well, I have to give up pleasure. I can't go dancing anymore because that brings me pleasure. I can't sing. I can't, I can't take my kids to the beach anymore or Disney World because that's fun. And or I shouldn't get married and have kids or go for a job that's going to give me a really good income because somehow that's wrong. I mean, so people go there with their mind thinking that things are on the sort of the positive side of the line, and as I mentioned this earlier, Ajahn Buddhadasa, this very great Thai saint, he said it better. He said it really well. He said we're addicted to deliciousness. We're addicted to deliciousness. We get up in the morning. We want good cup of coffee. We want good conversation. We want a good job with good money, writing just work in a good car. We're addicted to everything. And it's not, you got to hear the word addicted too, because that's different than just we prefer it. You know, having pleasure, you know, a lot of people would say, well, Buddhism's anti-pleasure, right? You go, renunciation, I have to give it all up and become a monk or a nun. You know, you have to, there are no monastics here, so I can say this, but you know, it's like you have to give it up. What Andre's saying is what we need to give up is suffering. You know, renunciation is the determination to be free of suffering. That's what we're renouncing, is suffering and the causes of suffering. It's actually having compassion for ourselves, seeing that with the kind of mind I have, it's not going to look good down the road. I'm caught in this whole process of samsaric, uncontrolled causation. It's not going to go well. We all have to deal with that, don't we? We all have to deal with, I mean, there are a lot of young people here, but you're going to get old. If you're lucky enough to live long, you're going to get sick. And we all have to deal with, you know, the end. You know, we got to deal with that. It's scary because our survival instinct, that's the thing we cling to most, is me, I. So it's, anyway, it's very interesting. The problem is not the pleasure. Can have all the pleasure we want. The problem is the addiction to pleasure, or the clinging. We use the word clinging a lot. I think that really describes it. It's a sticky, clingy, grasping mind that wants or has more than a casual relationship with pleasure. It has sort of a really unhealthy relationship with pleasurable experiences, be they great food or sexual intimacy or a beautiful sunset or a walk in the woods or whatever it is. As long as we grasp or hang or cling to that experience, first of all, the pleasure we're experiencing is like polluted. Why is it it's polluted by grasping? So it's not, so you can call it, we label that pleasure, don't we? But it's really, is sort of not the best pleasure. Not the best pleasure. Lama, you know, when Lama Yeshe, people ask him about Buddhism being against pleasure and against having fun and everything, he said something that's already been said. He said, to the contrary, Buddhism wants us to have the most fun. This is all about having fun. But you want to have fun that's like pure fun, that's blissful, like the greatest possible fun. It was very interesting. When I was first, I'm rambling now. I didn't take my Adderall this morning, but anyway. But when I first went to Nepal in the late 70s, most of the people there, in fact, George Chernoff, who was here a few weeks ago, he was there. There were like 200 Westerners, and he came up to me. And I was, at the time, I had been, you know, doing my job for a while, and I took a year off to travel and do stuff. And anyway, George Chernoff came up to me and said, almost like, "What are you doing here? You are the straightest person here." Because it was all hippies, you know, who'd come to Nepal for drugs because you could get anything in Kathmandu for almost nothing. So they came here to get high. And when they heard, this is true, a lot of them heard that these Tibetan lamas could teach you how to get high without drugs. And a lot of them got attracted to, I mean, where it came up to the Kopan course because they wanted to learn how to work with their mind, because they knew that they could experience these extraordinary states of bliss and happiness and joy with drugs, but then crash. Got to go for another fix, crash. So it was really unsatisfying. And so a lot of them came up there looking for, like, and then you meet Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, and they're just laughing and cutting up. You can hear Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa laughing like a half a mile away, you know, because they're sitting up on a hill. And you go, wow, I want what he's got. You know, it was like that. So hundreds and hundreds of people would come up to, you know, to study Buddhism in those early days, really looking for an alternative to drugs. But getting back to the thing of pleasure, Buddhism is not saying that any kind of pleasurable experience, verbal, physical, mental, whatever we call pleasure, it's not bad. But if we cling to it, it just gives us second-rate pleasure. And what does it also do? It creates an aversion to what? The more you crave pleasure, the more you hate what? Pain. And the more you suffer when you get pain. Really? I mean, you see people that are stoic. When they have pain, they deal with it. When they have pleasure, they deal with it. But they don't live for this. But Ajahn Buddhadasa says this is what we live for. And by living for this, we create an aversion to that. So the more we crave, and I'm talking, I want to use the term like a craving, like grasping. The more we grasp at pleasure, the more we grasp at not having pain. Another way of saying that is the more we fear pain. The more I crave not having pain, the more I fear pain, right? So when I'm here, I'm not having pain, but I'm not having pleasure. I'm trying to get back over here, and I'm feeling aversion to this, even though I'm not even experiencing it. And when I get over there, it's even worse, right? So the problem is not the pleasure or the pain, because you can't get away from this in life. This is all part of life. We're all going to have pleasurable experiences, and all of us are going to have this, right? And if we crave and cling to not having pain, loss, disgrace, and blame, if we like, I can't stand it if if they say anything bad about me, or, if I lose my relationship with my wife or my husband, or my children die, God forbid, or, whatever it is, the more we cling to not having this, the more we suffer when we get it. So it's very interesting. The problem, in a sense, is it possible to be in pain and not suffer? You said, yes, it is possible. Have you actually had that experience?
It's just like complete surrender to pain. It is what it is, so I accept it. I experience it and I accept it, and I pray. That helps.
Yeah.
So to me personally, acceptance and just having my own values and not having the people pressure that this shouldn't be happening, or why did this happen, just have the complete acceptance of it. That helps me.
Right. I mean, and having a faith in karma, that whatever's the pain that I'm experiencing, even though somebody else crossed the midline and hit me head on, and I'm like, sitting up in intensive care unit with all these broken bones, but accepting the pain in that moment is just what it is. It's just the resultant. I'm accepting it. I'm not clinging. It's not that we're not trying to get better. If we're in pain, it doesn't mean you don't go to the doctor. If you need to go to the doctor to, to get some medication to alleviate your pain, if you can't stand it, right? It doesn't mean we don't look for solutions, but it means in the moment of experiencing pain, it's possible to not suffer. If we're not clinging to something, if we're not clinging to pleasure, then pain is what? It's just pain. In fact, there's a meditation that in meditation, sometimes it's more done in the Thai tradition than Tibetan Buddhism, but it's called the pain meditation. And you just sit there and you watch your pain in the body. And if you sit still for an hour, you will be in terrible pain. Let me tell you. You want, your body you'll be going, this hurts, I hate this, I can't stand it. And then the training, though, is to see it as pain, not identified as my pain. Okay, pain in the knee, pain in this knee, pain in the neck, thoughts, whatever. But to not identify with the pain is a great way to have a more neutral attitude toward it. Yes, ma'am.
And I also wanted to say that other thing which has helped me personally is to focus on positive. Okay, even if I am in emergency room, I'm blessed to have that capability that I can go to emergency room, have the doctor, have the medicine, and just not be focused on what's wrong, but focused on what's right.
Good. And so that allows you to let go of the attachment to pleasure and to accept the pain. is what you're saying. So again, so we're talking pleasure. Again, the things that we're addicted to: pleasure, all kinds of pleasure, right? Gain, all kinds of gain, material, relationships. The point of this list is this is supposed to subsume everything in the world that you personally think is delightful and delicious. So it's not inclusive, but fame is a good reputation. So we all want that. We all want to be thought of as being a good person, good at what we do. And then we all want people's approval, don't we? Please like me, Andre. If you don't like me, I just don't think I'm going to be able to. Yeah, oh, please like me. Don't disapprove of me. You know, we walk around like that all the time. We're so addicted to other people's approval. It's ridiculous. And it causes us a lot of suffering. So here we are again. You know, the problem is not this, and even though this is not desirable, I'm not saying that losing your Jaguar or your spouse or your money or your 401k going into the tank, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. It's just what it is. We have to have a more dispassionate attitude toward these things. That's kind of the take-home message, is to let go, to let go, to let go, to let go. Now, how in the world do we do that? How do we let go of our attachment to pleasure and let go of our attachment to not having pain? I mean, that's really that's the question, isn't it? Okay. No, you don't have to. You're right. You do not have to.
Right. Because I think a lot of people, I think it depends a lot. Coming from a different culture or a different country gives you a totally different perspective. If you come to America and you see the way people try to let go, or like you said, people are trying to look nice in front of other people or be something that they're actually not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a cultural thing. So I think the same with letting go, trying to let go, trying to not do this. It's like you said, very clingy.
Right.
Everyone tries to cling to either pleasure or pain, and missing actually what's, I think, just the peace of being in the moment. And just not your example was very interesting, and I may take a little long, but I'm going to try to make it short. We recently just had a baby a month ago. So from my previous experience, it was, I had low platelets. I couldn't have the epidural. I went through a very, very long delivery and very painful. So in my mind, I was very stressed about that. And I was trying with my second baby not to get there. So I had this fear. I was in a constant fear that I'm going to go through the same thing and it's going to be horrible. Instead of letting go and just living with the idea that it might happen, I dragged it, and it came. I was in the same exact situation like 7 years ago, when a month before I had the baby, I was told, we're sorry, your platelets are very low. Unless we're going to be able to raise them, we're not going to be able to do anything for you. You're going to have to deliver the same way. So from that moment till I delivered, I did everything possible to raise my platelets. I went to this doctor, to that doctor. You know, my fear took control. And instead of just dealing with the present and with the fact that I'm going to, just have the baby, I put my body and my mind through this whole stress where I was taking steroids. Every doctor was giving. Now suddenly they discovered that there's something with the thyroid. So I went through the whole thing mentally knowing I was not going to change anything, but still putting pressure on myself, on the baby, and still I had the same delivery. I still couldn't take the epidural. The steroids couldn't. But what you were saying somehow brought those memories back to me, and it kind of I think, because it also matters a lot whether or not you're a sick person or a healthy person. So I think not everybody's, I see my mother-in-law, she's a sick type of person. And I mean, not type of person. She's been sick since she was a kid. And you can see how her whole presence and her whole attitude towards life and towards just general things that you're talking about is a
Right.
completely different thing, because she says, well, how can I can't enjoy life. In our country, people who are over 50 or 60 are almost like, yeah, well, our life is done. I mean, this is, women cook the whole day. That it's not about traveling anymore. It's about working. And
Now, do you, going back to your, and I know we're going to have to wrap it up, I guess. My Fitbit doesn't tell me what time it is, but I'm just listening to you, and I'm not disagreeing with you that, that I don't think we have to let go. We don't have to let go. We don't have to let go of our attachment to pleasure, and we don't have to let go of our aversion to pain. Buddhism is not saying we have to do that, but it's very clear logically, and I think if we check our experience, for example, clinging to having a painless delivery,
right,
would create a lot of aversion to having a painful delivery and more suffering.
Right.
So, Buddhism's not saying that we have to let go. It's not saying we can do all of these things and still cling. But the consequences of that is always going to be suffering. It's always going to be suffering. And we can go through life feeling aversion toward this, and the consequence is always going to be suffering. If we want to have a happy life, then it behooves us to try to develop and train ourselves to recognize when we're clinging, and try to infuse that moment with wisdom, which would allow us to let go, and compassion too. Compassion for ourselves, compassion for other people. And so we have to it's not an easy process. I mean, this is like the work of, this teaching is called the 8 worldly dharmas sometimes. And I can tell you, this is where we spend this is our whole life right here, clinging to to deliciousness, and being fearful and dreading and feeling aversion toward things that aren't good. And Buddhism is really trying to teach us how to live in the moment, accept whatever comes up as just a resultant of our own karma, and then to infuse our awareness of that with wisdom and compassion. That is not easy. That's a work of many lifetimes, but that's kind of where we have to leave it today, to be continued. I think I've just been, Sarah's given me the time. So do you want to speak now, or we do the dedication? Or okay, go ahead.
So my name is Sarah, and I am here talking to you today to tell you about an incredibly special event that's happening this coming weekend. We are having a relic tour coming. It's called the Maitreya Loving Kindness Tour. And it's a tour of the relics of the Holy Buddha and many of the holy masters. It's something that is incredibly profound. The people who have experienced it before use words like life-changing. So it's something that we really encourage you to come check out. It's all weekend, Friday night, Saturday all day, Sunday all day. There's no teachings on Sunday morning because of this special tour. You can also bring your pets for special blessings, so they can come, they can circumambulate the stupa, come inside and circumambulate the relics, get a bonk on the head from the reliquary. So it's really a meaningful thing you can do for your animals as well. Kids, everyone's welcome. There's no charge, but we're also desperately in need of volunteers. And it takes our whole community to put this on, because we need 150 shifts, 2 to 3 hour shifts, to cover that whole weekend. And I've still got probably at least 60 more 2 to 3 hour shifts that I've got to fill before the weekend. So I'm sitting in the lobby so that I can answer your questions about what each shift is that's available, what does it mean, what do I have to do, and I can help you sign up. So please come see me in the lobby if you can help out this coming weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and the contribution. It's, again, more questions than answers, but that's fine. I mean, to live in that question of how can I, is this fun experience really as much fun as I thought it was? Or can I make this fun experience like the cause for me to get enlightened? Can I make it, like if I have some kind of joyful experience, can I like offer that joy and happiness to others, to the gurus, to the enlightened beings? I'm gonna have as much fun as I can, and I'm gonna give all the pleasure and all the joy to the gurus. What a great, then you're not just, your ego's not so tied up in it, maybe. So there's a lot of techniques to transform even pleasurable experiences into the cause for enlightenment. All right, so we're going to do the dedication prayers starting on 246. This is Shantideva's prayer, and this one is His Holiness the Dalai Lama really likes this one, and so we like it too. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness enjoyed by virtue of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are one with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Now let's go back to the beginning, on just the continuation, the next page, I guess it's 36. We can do these long life, maybe do these 2 pages of dedication, prayers, and so forth. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honoring the 3 jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And we could do Migmate Sewe. Let's do that one. We'll do the 5-line one even in Tibetan. Migmate Sewe ter chen rezig dreame gampe wampo jambe yang dupun malu John se san wedan Ganchen kape zukyan songapa Lord Sandra pe shabla soadeb. Now the 4 measurables in Tibetan. I don't know the tune to that. Well, I'll try. Who knows the Tibetan tune? Robbie? Senchan dan che dewa dan dewe gyudang damba gyos jik Dunyal dan du Gao gi gyudang drill wa gyo shik Dugnyal mepe dewa dami drel wagyo shik nering chadang nidan drel we danyom la nepa Gyoshik. Okay, so we do Omani Pimium. Anybody want to help me with the tune to that one? Otherwise, I'll do my tune. Mani Padme Hum. Oh, Mani Padme Hum. Oh, Mani Padme Hum. Oh, Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Dari do re so ha. Hum 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 dari do re so